What's up? Welcome to the courtroom.
I am Theo.
And I'm Oj. And in this podcast, we tell you stories about people's life, liberty, and property.
Kikwentuhan namin kayo about court rulings in a way that will make you understand jurisprudence like a 9-year-old.
All persons before the honor Supreme Court of Justice shall give their thanks for the court now in session.
So join us as we delve into true crime, political controversies, and all things tare de chismis every week.
Mario and Rosanna first met in 1975 through the Legion of Mary at St. Peter and Paul Parish in Makati.
They wrote letters to each other hanggang sa nawalan sila ng contact sa isa't isa. During those times apart, Mario had worked in Switzerland, Germany, and Italy before returning to the Philippines in April 1995.
It was during this time that Mario sought to find Rosanna through their childhood friends.
Nagbabakasyon lang noon ng 2 buwan si Mario mula sa trabaho niya sa Italy nung unang muling magkita ang dalawa.
And dahil persistent si Mario at malapit na din naman itong bumalik sa Italy, napapayag niya din si Rosanna sa isang date.
Tuluyan ng niligawan ni Mario si Rosanna. Inamin din niya dito that he had been in love with her for the past 20 years.
So, Rosanna eventually fell in love with Mario and agreed to be his girlfriend.
Umalis si Mario para bumalik sa kanyang trabaho sa Italy noong July 1995. Pero wala pa halos 2 buwan, bumalik na agad ito sa Pilipinas at tuluyan nang nag-resign sa kanyang trabaho abroad.
Kinasal si Mario and Rosanna on December 16, 1995 at the St. Peter and Paul Parish in Poblacion, Makati. And on July 27, 1996, Rosanna gave birth to Maria Samantha, ang kaisa-isa nilang anak.
Tumira ang pamilyang Andal sa isang duplex in Parañaque City kung saan malapit sila sa mga magulang ni Rosanna.
According kay Rosanna, Mario exhibited odd behaviors even prior to their wedding and during their marriage.
Anong mga odd behaviors ba to, Oj?
Well, hirap daw mag-manage ng finances tong si Mario. In fact, tong si Rosanna, pinaubaya pa kay Mario yung design and construction matrix. Ito yung construction firm na tinayo ni Rosanna bago pa sila ikasal.
So, ano nangyari sa company ni Rosanna?
Well, yung husband niya made numerous cash advances and purchases using supplementary credit card, which resulted sa financial losses and the eventual closure of design and construction matrix.
Ouch! Sakit naman nun. Malamang pinaghirapan itayo ni Rosanna yung business niya, no?
Surely. And it didn't end there kasi Mario continued with his emotional immaturity, irresponsibility, irritability, and psychological imbalance. Minsan nga, Theo, he would leave their house for several days without informing Rosanna kung saan ba siya nagpupunta.
Minsan din daw, umuwi yang si Mario. Chismosa lang no? Minsan din daw, Mari. Umuwi din daw yang si Mario and then would refuse to go out and would sleep for days. Tapos, another occasion, hyperactive din naman daw ng mga oras ng gabi.
Mario allegedly did not assist Rosanna when she gave birth to their child, Maria Samantha. Iniwan niya to sa hospital knowing that she could not move until mag-wear off yung effects ng spinal anesthesia. He only returned to the hospital later that evening just to sleep.
Mario also showed symptoms of paranoia. Akala niya everyone was out to attack him. Minsan pa, he would hide Maria Samantha from those he thought were out to hurt them.
Pero hindi lahat ng oras protective siya sa anak niya. Nung nadengue kasi si Maria Samantha, di na naman siya mahagilap, Teo. Nung eventually he arrived at the hospital, he would prevent the nurse from administering prescribed medications to Maria Samantha.
Actually, kahit nung sumusuka na yung anak niya, kiber lang siya, di ba? He would just ignore the ill child, turn to the other side, and then boom, tulog na. Mapasandal tulog.
And nakitaan din ng shabu si Mario in his possession. When Rosanna confronted him about it, ang excuse niya is that it was the only way lang daw for him to function kasi nape-pressure daw siya.
Rosanna eventually got tired of Mario and petitioned the regional trial court to voluntarily commit Mario for drug rehabilitation at the NBI Treatment and Rehabilitation Center and eventually at Seagull's Flight Foundation.
Mario remained confined there until the rehabilitation center released Mario without completing his rehab program in December 24, 2000.
Rosana wrote the trial court as to Mario's premature release from the rehabilitation center. Since Mario's release, Rosana and Mario had been separated and had not lived together. Di na din nakakapagbigay ng suportong si Mario kina Rosana at kay Maria Samantha.
These events, according to Rosana, showed Mario's psychological incapacity to comply with his essential marital obligations to her.
Sabi ni Rosana, yung pagdadrugs ni Mario was the manifestation of a grave personality disorder deeply rooted within Mario's adaptive system. Kaya naman, she prayed that the trial court nullify their marriage and that she be declared the sole and absolute owner of the parcel of land donated to her by her aunt and as well as the duplex built on it.
To prove Mario's psychological incapacity, Rosana presented Dr. Garcia, a physician psychiatrist, as expert witness. And Dr. Garcia found Rosana psychologically capacitated to comply with her essential marital obligations.
As for Mario, Dr. Garcia diagnosed him with narcissistic antisocial personality disorder and substance abuse disorder with psychotic features. Yung narcissistic antisocial personality disorder daw ni Mario is said to be grave with juridical antecedents and incurable. And this render him psychologically incapacitated to comply with his essential marital obligations to Rosana.
Dr. Garcia testified that Mario's personality disorder was grave and deeply rooted in his character and added that persons suffering from personality disorders are impermeable to any form of psychiatric therapeutic modality because of the presence of denial and cognizance on the basic pathology of the person suffering from the disorder.
Siyempre, Mario contended that it was actually Rosana who was psychologically incapacitated to comply with her essential marital obligation. He prayed that the trial court nullify his marriage to Rosana due to her psychological incapacity and that the properties they had acquired during their cohabitation be divided equally between them. He also prayed that the custody of Maria Samantha be awarded to him.
The trial court nullified the parties' marriage on the ground of Mario's psychological incapacity. Napunta din kay Rosana yung custody ng daughter nila. And as to the Parañaque duplex, Rosana was declared as its sole and absolute owner, including the parcel of land on which it was built.
Kaso, the Court of Appeals reversed the ruling of the lower court and declared na valid and subsisting pa din daw ang marriage ng dalawa. It found Dr. Garcia's psychiatric evaluation of Mario to be unscientific and unreliable since she diagnosed Mario without interviewing him. It ruled that Dr. Garcia was working on pure suppositions and second-hand information fed to her by one side.
Rosana argued that psychological incapacity need not be grounded on psychological illness, as this is allegedly more consistent with psychological incapacity being a liberal ground for nullifying marriages. Nag-cite din siya ng mga jurisprudence where the Supreme Court held that competent evidence may establish psychological incapacity and that what matters is the totality of the evidence presented and not necessarily expert opinion.
Dagdag pa ni Rosana na ang psychological incapacity ay incurable but not necessarily in a medical or clinical sense. Pwedeng incurability being manifested by ingrained behavior shown during the marriage by the psychologically incapacitated spouse.
So, sasagutin ng Supreme Court if there is a need for a medical or clinical proof to attest one's psychological incapacity.
And ang sabi ng Supreme Court ay no. Psychological incapacity need not be medically or clinically proven. In effect, the court modified the doctrine enunciated in the Molina case or Republic versus Court of Appeals and Molina.
Ano ba sabi sa Molina case, Teo?
Well, according kasi sa second guidelines in Molina, the root cause daw of psychological incapacity must be, number 1, medically or clinically identified. Number 2, as alleged in the complaint. Number 3, or letter C, sufficiently proven by experts. And D, clearly explained in the decision. So, if you'll notice, nandun yung letter C na sufficiently proven by expert.
Okay, and sa Santos versus Court of Appeals naman, the court defined psychological incapacity as a mental incapacity to comply with the essential marital obligation. It involves the most serious cases of personality disorders, clearly demonstrative of an utter insensitivity or inability to give meaning and significance to the marriage.
Ang naging problem kasi, Oj, in the past, the court or yung previous jurisprudence natin have been inconsistent in requiring expert evidence in psychological incapacity cases. Kaya naman, para daw mas clear, the court now categorically abandons the second Molina guideline. Ngayon, psychological incapacity is neither a mental incapacity nor a personality disorder that must be proven through expert opinion.
Pero remember tayo, kahit ba di na kailangan ang expert medical opinion to a certain psychological incapacity, di naman din pwedeng i-abuse to and just mindlessly end marriages. Siyempre, hindi pwede yun ganun. There must be proof of the durable or enduring aspects of a person's personality, which manifests itself through clear acts of dysfunctionality that undermines the family.
Such personality structure must make it impossible for him or her to understand and comply with their marital obligations. The proof required for this need not be given by an expert. Enough na kahit mga ordinary witnesses who have been present in the life of the spouses before they contracted marriage, and they may testify on the behavior that they have consistently observed from the incapacitated spouse.
Meron pang isang conflict tayo. Kasi
Dami
di ba,
namang conflict?
under the Molina case, the juridical antecedents of the psychological incapacity pursuant to Article 36 of the Family Code is that such psychological incapacity must be incurable. Kaso remember, the court also acknowledges that psychological incapacity, not being an illness in a medical sense, is not something to be cured, di ba?
Yeah, gets. Kasi nga naman kung ako si Rosana, syempre bilang tao gusto natin lahat psychologically capacitated or healthy, di ba? Kung pwede nga lang lahat strong mentally and psychologically, di ba? Kaso nga lang for Rosana to invoke psychological incapacity as ground to nullify their marriage, the capacity has to be incurable.
Well, para daw hindi magulo.
Magulo ba ako?
The Supreme Court answered that as such. The third Molina guideline is amended to mean na ang incurability should be taken in a legal sense and not a medical sense. This means that the incapacity is so enduring and persistent with respect to a specific partner and contemplates a situation where the couple's respective personality structures are so incompatible and antagonistic that the only result of the union would be the inevitable and irreparable breakdown of the marriage.
Dahil dito, the court found Mario psychologically incapacitated to comply with his essential marital obligations.
Rosana was able to discharge the burden of proof required to nullify her marriage to Mario. Clear and convincing evidence of his incapacity was shown through testimonies on Mario's personality and how it formed primarily through his childhood and adult experiences way before he married Rosana.
Dr. Garcia was also able to recount how Mario developed traits exhibiting chronic irresponsibility, impulsiveness, lack of remorse, lack of empathy, and a sense of entitlement, behaviors which manifest his inherent psychological incapacity to comply with his essential marital obligations.
While drug addiction is a ground for legal separation, it will not prevent the court from voiding a marriage so long as it can be proven that the drug abuse is a manifestation of psychological incapacity existing at the time of marriage.
Here, the totality of evidence presented by Rosana clearly and convincingly proved that Mario's drug abuse was a sufficient durability that antedates the marriage. His persistent failure to rehabilitate, even bring his child into a room where he did drugs, di ba? Grabe lang talaga to si Mario eh. Indicates a level of dysfunctionality that shows utter disregard of his obligations not only to his wife, but unfortunately also to his child, Maria Samantha.
His failure to render mutual help and support was also clearly proven by his consistent failure to find gainful employment and even driving to bankruptcy the construction firm founded by Rosana by siphoning its funds for his drug abuse.
Oh, pag-drugs talaga. Kaya naman, the petition was granted and the decision of the Court of Appeals was reversed and set aside.
Actually, Teo, this case gave a very beautiful insight of love and marriage.
Kahit nakakabwisit siya.
Yes, according sa Supreme Court, marriage is not compulsory when in love. Neither does it create love. Nonetheless, it remains an institution designed to provide legal and public recognition that may be well-deserved not only for the couple but also for their families existing or yet to come.
To be clear, the collective hope is that one who chooses marriage realizes that the other deserves more caring, more compassion, more kindness in the daily and banal grind of their relationship. Yet, we should not be blind to the reality that a person may be truly psychologically incapacitated from the beginning. It is in this regard that the court takes part in making parting less bitter, minimize animosity, para naman may tatanungin na kinabukasan ang mga nasasaktan at mga naghiwalay.
Because, as the court says, parting is already a sorrow. It need not be more than what it already is. If you guys like this audiogram, please listen to the full episode on Spotify or on your favorite podcast app, where you can hear our insights on this case. Again, this is Oj.
And Theo, leaving you with a reminder to always look back in history because precedent shall rule the future.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again in the courtroom.
Bye!